Hello world of YouTube and welcome to the last episode of Redacted during the 6-year anniversary of the show celebrations, the show where every album has a story. Thank you again so very much for joining me throughout this month of celebrating this show that I've loved doing and plan on continuing to do for as long as I have this channel. This month, we're not only going to be doing another entry in the year of the sequel of sorts, as far as like revisiting an idea, we're also going to be doing a direct sequel of an idea that I started the summer off with to start sending the summer into the sunset. The conceptualized album of sorts is a bringing together of a batch of singles a band did during a time of the year. The band in question is Anamanaguchi, and the singles in question were released as a sequel to an idea they did 10 years prior in 2010 during 2020, which within the context of releasing a batch of singles in the year of 2020 is wholly different than the singles released in 2010 and create a vibe that is wholly different altogether but celebrates the band's journey over the last 10 years nonetheless. It is a tiny little project that I'm calling Styla. The big difference between this Redacted and the Redacted I did on the aforementioned singles from 2010 is that I also included the other songs that Anamanaguchi bundled into the packaging of these songs that they were releasing recently to celebrate the singles that they dropped in 2020. Now, obviously, the energy of this project isn't quite the same as the energy of the singles 2010, not only because the band had been around for longer and their sound evolved into a realm that's just more full and utilizes collaboration a little more smoothly than the stuff that they were doing during 2010. But 2010, there was no summer of 2020. It was just a battling of people arguing about COVID and people fighting the police over the injustices that were being brought more and more to the public eye. The mood just wasn't very bright. It's a very bleak year. It was a very bleak summer. And it was just a very rough time. And Anamanaguchi's backdrop for that carries a lot of that gloom and foreboding mood and funnels it into a still very high-energy, bright-sounding experience that I think keeps the sort of alien mood of that summer intact, so to speak. I really like the songs that they recorded in 2020 to celebrate their sort of evolution as a band. And my goal with pulling them together into this project that I'm calling Styla, purely because it's one of the songs and the leads of that song are incredibly infectious in a way that sort of evokes a theme of sorts, was to just similarly to that keep the mood intact and keep a sort of cohesion from track to track that kept the pacing really tight and concise like the record itself, while also utilizing the collaborative edge that these songs had to keep sort of sonic focus intact, or at least celebrate the band's accomplishments in a little more of a different way, that I think is still pretty fucking good. My version of Styla is 8 songs and 27 minutes. So again, not that long of a project, but let's go ahead and look at the track listing before breaking it down track by track. sort of bookending in the sound of this album that I use with the very beginning of Jaime and the very end of Stay Home. But Jaime also is the bigger of the two songs. It is a collaboration with Jamie Brooks that is a very catchy but sad ass song that has this feeling of emptiness that, again, in the lyrics is told as long stewed. This feeling of sort of empty pain has been going their whole life, and I think, again, helps put the listener in the mood of this odd sadness that I think is pulled together beautifully. I love the song. I think it's catchy as hell, and I think as far as showing off the band's sound being evolved tenfold, starting with this chiptune beginning that then drops out into this huge, bold, synth-driven song is a great moment that I use to also show off the collaborative edge that gets further explored on the follow-up K, or Kai, which is a collaboration with Poochie, I'm assuming a vocoder or a sample-based vocalist, and the two create this energy that's very much inspired by pockets of where their last album from 2019, USA, was diving into, to create, again, another catchy, high-energy song that pivots that mood and more puts it in more of an Anamanaguchi-ass realm, but I think is a good summer part of this summer record that I wanted to have early on in the record to be this reminder of like, hey, it's a weird mood, but it's still the summertime, guys. While not maybe as consistently dense as like your typical Anamanaguchi song, it has those club banger ass highs amidst some of the sparse breakdowns of this song that I think help further showcase the sonic evolution of this band, on top of being a better showcasing of their collaborative energy being more rekindled as a group. But from there, in the wind down of that song, I wanted to keep it a little more back to basics for this band with the instrumental Vancouver, which, as far as like the band playing the hits and crafting another really good, just moody, again, atmospheric, but chiptune-ass, vibrant, energetic cut, Vancouver is that. I've always loved the chiptune sonic palette of this group, but I love how Vancouver shows that they've fleshed that out into this full, but still very intense experience. I love the way that the guitars and the synths weave on this. I think that the melodies on this are bright and catchy. Again, as far as like having this somewhat somber mood that dances around the high energy of this track. I think that the band pulled that together on Vancouver masterfully. I love the bridge of this song where the sort of twinkling arpeggio dances with the groove that the band is sort of carrying that's sort of tangential to that vibe. I don't know. There's a lot about this song that I think is very c'est magnifique. It also ultimately acts as this very straightforward album cut-ass bit between these two bolder collaborative experiences on the project, because from Vancouver I go into the sort of everyday, every night suite of sorts, because unlike on My Skateboard Will Go On, where I cut the airbrushed remix from my version of the record, I kept the DVI remix of Everyday, Every Night in the track listing. I just used it as sort of a centerpiece extravaganza of sorts, because the original Everyday Every Night is a good melding of the sort of vocoder-inspired collaborations the band had continued to do post Dawn Metropolis and amidst their 2010s career, and is this just funky-ass jam. It's got this really meaty low-end groove that just acts as a good pairing with the twinkly highs that the song has going on. Again, it's a moment where, similarly to K or Kai, Anamanaguchi shows their evolution tenfold, almost just jumping away from the overtly chiptune roots while having moments where it still comes to light, to the point where by the remix's end it almost feels like it's coming back on around to the group's roots. I really love the pairing of the two versions of the songs, and I think that even on the single they bleed well into each other, so I figured why not keep them intact as, again, this sort of summery middle piece where you're dancing, where you're trying to dance every day and every night to dance above the misery of sorts. Because from there, we twist. We keep the pixel energy and the chiptune energy that the remix of Everyday Evernight sort of spins back around on its end into Pixel Candle, which has this, again, just really well-accented, twinkly soundscape that gives way to this high-energy, kinetic groove where these, I don't want to say somber, but dreamlike, twinkly synths sort of create this atmosphere that jumps up higher from the highs of Everyday Evernight in its remix, that I think keeps it light and airy in all the best ways. I love Pixel Candle, and I think that, again, as far as being this Anamanaguchi-ass Anamanaguchi song, it is a good version of that type of song from them that I wanted to use as a sort of beginning through a three-piece, basic-ass look at the band, because from there we go into the title track, which I think bleeds well from Styla, because the sort of fade out into the horizons of that and the sort of sounds of that flip well into these sounds and synths of Styla. Another, again, low-end, heavy, fat, groovy-ass song that sort of more embodies the energy of a lot of the brighter aspects of these singles into a modern Anamanaguchi-ass banger of a song with, again, an infectious lead. Again, the lead hook of this song is the sort of, like, casual menu music you would hear in, like a Saturn era-ass game, but with that modern groove beneath it to show the growth of the band tenfold. It's also one last glimmery, shiny, bright-sounding song, because just like the 2010 singles, they did do a cover for the 2020 singles, only this one, again, was much more in line with the mood of 2020, and I use it to send the record off as, again, a sort of a bookend to the project as a whole, with Stay Home, the American football jam interpolated into Anamanaguchi's brand of chiptune excellence, and done so masterfully. I think, again, as far as capturing both the high energy and bright sounds of Anamanaguchi with the technical and somber mood of American football, this cover bridges those worlds magnificently. And I think as far as, like, reinforcing a mood or finding a way to reinforce a mood while sending an album out around the bend, this Stay Home cover, I think, is a good piece of that, and I use for that purpose, for that reason. And I also use it because American Football is not a band I would consider a summer band. Their mood and tone very much evokes the fall, and if I'm sending this summer album into the sunset, just like I am with this Redacted, I figured I would close it with the song from the band that sounds like they were made for fall. But that's my version of the Anamanaguchi 2020 singles into an album that I called Styla. If you'd like to listen to it, it is linked in the description with a YouTube and Spotify link. If you like this Redacted, give it a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. Thank you again for watching these Redacteds and for joining me in celebrating this show. Hopefully you liked it. I'm going to go, though. I've been Viral Wreck. You guys have a good day's lives and situations. And I'll see you another day.